Peace, everyone. This is Elder Jeffrey from the St. Louis branch of the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. Welcome to Friday Night Bible Study. So glad that you're here. You joined us today. We're glad to be a part of this ongoing program that we have in spreading the word of the God of Israel. And I'm not by myself. I've got Ezra, one of the RISE members here in St. Louis branch, and also Minister Anthony. Peace, everyone. Peace, guys.
Peace.
Peace, peace, peace.
All right. And as you guys enter, peace unto you. I'm so glad again to be here on this Friday night. And we have a special Friday night from St. Louis.
Yes.
Shelby wish he could be here, but unfortunately he was unable to. But he does send his greetings and peace as well. But what we wanted to do is that, last week we had a real special weekend. We had a seminar here in the St. Louis branch. Seminar took place at the Florissant Library, which is where our new location is, and it was a great event. And so we wanted to present it to you guys. We want you guys to get a glimpse of what we're doing here in St. Louis. So, but before we jump into that, we just wanted to give you a little context, give you a little thoughts about it, and then just introduce it to you guys. So. Minister Anthony, what do you think? Why did we do a seminar here in St. Louis?
Well, I think last year around this time has it been a year already?
It's almost.
We were able to successfully bring the Bible and the Black Man and Black Woman seminar here.
Yes,
and we got such a good turnout and such good feedback that the wheels were spinning. Like, what? Let's not let this be a one-off. So we kind of wanted to build on that and really wanted to and really engage the community and branch off, right? Of course, we talk about the Bible, the Black man and the Black woman, right? But now let's dive deeper into that. And so definitely one of the reasons we wanted to showcase our seminar.
And what was the name of the seminar?
Rebuilding Our Community. And
yes.
I have to tell you, when people first saw it, it was one of those pause moments like, wait a minute, what do you guys mean? Rebuilding our community? Like, is it destroyed? Is it going somewhere? Like, it was one of those. It definitely got the word kind of spread it out, and people were very, very interested in want to know what exactly we're talking about.
Yeah.
And two, how does being an Israelite relate to that?
Right. Well, rebuilding our communities, and the subtitle was starting with a new Israelite spiritual foundation.
Yes,
rebuilding our communities, starting with an Israelite spiritual foundation, and I think so absolutely we had the seminar last year, but also as our new year back in the bib, we in the branch we go through a process of like, okay, what's our goals this year? What's our vision this year? What do we want to look at and work on this year? And one of the things we had said is like, we've been virtual for so long coming out of COVID, which has been very good and effective. And a lot of brethren locally and internationally have become aware of us through that and have even come baptized. But we're like, let's do some local efforts, right? Let's see, what happened. Let's do some of the events that we used to do, pre-COVID. And so, and let's go out and let's see what happens. Let's shake the tree again. Let's see what happens. And so, about a month ago, we were the host for the Yes Camp, for the Rise Yes Camp. And that's where RISE members from, all over the country came here and had their leadership camp. And a part of that was they helped us at one of the events that happened. It was I think it was the Black Wall Street event.
Yes.
That took place on Martin Luther King Boulevard. And so you guys can imagine Martin Luther King Boulevard as it is in every city. But back in the day, it was known as the Black Wall Street in St. Louis. And
yes.
So at that event, we sort of, put out this sort of theme, right, about rebuilding our community and starting with an Israelite, a spiritual foundation. And the Yes Camp members, the RISE members, came and helped us, and man, they did a great job. They really did a great job. It was I think it was probably one of the most, and it must have been at least 100 booths out there that day. And I think we were probably one of the most lively booths. We had a lot of
we were very crowded, and which is saying something because it was very hot that day. So,
Yeah, it was. It was. And so at that event, we promoted this event and as well. And so this was like sort of that second leg of just being out there in the community. So leading up to it, we're like, yeah, I hope people come out. I hope it turns out well. And I guess you guys will see, hopefully it does. So that was another reason why, sort of continue that trajectory that happened at the Black Wall Street event. But then another reason why was, and I don't know how I even express this to you, it was one of the verses that we read during the event. And I think I'm gonna read a little bit of it now. It's in Zechariah 8. And locally, during our I think it was during our new moon or maybe one of our lessons, we talked about this a bit. Zechariah 8, the prophet Zechariah is prophesying around the time when we're rebuilding coming out of Babylon. And he's one of the prophets that encourages us to continue to rebuild the temple, rebuild Jerusalem after coming out of devastation, even though, we met a lot of resistance and we did have to stop building for a while. He was like, continue to build because, opportunity is there in front of you. And so this is I'm reading Zechariah 8 and I'm starting at verse 2. I'm gonna skip around, but please read the whole chapter when you get a chance. I read it start at verse 2. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I was jealous for Zion with great jealousy, and I was jealous for her with great fury. Thus saith the Lord, I am returned into Zion, and I will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and Jerusalem shall be called a city of truth, and the mountain of the Lord of hosts, the holy mountain. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, there shall yet old men and old women dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, and every man with his staff in his hand for very age. And the streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets thereof. And then I'm going to sort of jump down to verse 9. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, let your hands be strong, ye that hear in these days these words by the mouth of the prophets, which were in the days that the foundation of the house of the Lord of hosts was laid, that the temple might be built. For before these days there was no hired man, nor any hired beast, neither was there any peace to him that went out or came in because of the affliction. For I set all men, every one against his neighbor. But now I will not be unto the residue of this people, as in the former days, said Lord of hosts. For the seed shall be prosperous, the vine shall give her fruit, the ground shall give her increase, and the heavens shall give their dew. And I will cause the remnant of this people to possess all these things. And it shall come to pass, as you were cursed among the heathen, O house of Judah and house of Israel, so will I save you, and ye shall be a blessing. Fear not, but let your hands be strong. Isn't that beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And so to me, I in my mind, I visualized like pretending that instead of Jerusalem, that was St. Louis. Imagine that was St. Louis. St. Louis, instead of being, the number one murder capital of the world, it was a blessing. Old men and women walking down the street, children playing in the streets, everybody being peaceful with their neighbors, working together. So it's just that idea. So it's like, if we could just convince people that, hey, and let them see that, this answer is not just about escaping slavery, but it's about the vision and opportunity of what is in store for us in the future if we just incorporate Israelite culture into our lives.
It's so beautiful. And I don't know why, I think it takes us all back to a time period of almost being like young children, where how you wrapped up in your own world, but especially around this time in the summertime, it seemed like back then, or even when I was a child, everybody would be outside. It was just peaceful. It just really takes you back to that mindset, and even to see this particular scripture even illustrate that, to say that the young children would be out there, the men, the old men with their staff would be out. Like you see it.
Yeah.
And some, it's like you even feel like you've experienced it, even in the smallest form.
To some degree, yes. So that's the promise, So it's like let's go out there and try to let people know that there is a better tomorrow. Like if we just become obedient and follow these culture, it's for our better. So it's not to constrain us. So anyway, so those are some of the factors going into the seminar and why we instituted it. So I think we lost Ezra. I guess he had a bad connection. So we'll be back. We'll jump in a little bit later into the program, but I think without further ado, I think we'll let the seminar speak for itself. Hope you guys enjoy it. Don't forget, continue to chat and have the conversation so we can keep the dialogue going and keep the algorithm going as well for this. So I'll see you guys on the other side.
Hello and welcome all to our very first of many seminars, properly titled Rebuilding Our Community, Embracing Israelite Culture for a Stronger Future. Thank you. These are very exciting times, as well as I know I'm very excited. So I know many of you in the audience are asking yourself, who exactly is the Israelite nation? And what is this seminar all about? Well, I'm happy to be here to tell you about it. So the Israelite nation is a spiritual organization that's dedicated to restoring the Israelite culture and bringing it to the forefront of today. Now, I know I just confused you guys even more because you guys are looking at me and asking yourself, well, what is Israelite culture? I'm glad you asked, because that's exactly why we're here today, as we dive a little bit more into the Israelite culture and give you a sneak peek. We can't give you everything, but we're going to give you a sneak peek into what exactly that is and some key characteristics that you can take home with you today. All right. So as I stand here, you guys are looking at me puzzled. You have no idea who I am. That's okay. I am Minister Anthony. And I reside here in the St. Louis region, and I'm a part of the leadership here at the St. Louis branch. Now, we have many branches throughout the world, and we are a part of a bigger source that is our headquarters located in Toronto, Canada. You guys ever been to Canada? I see some head nods. Yes. Beautiful place, absolutely beautiful place. So as I said, I grew up right here in St. Louis, Missouri. As you can tell by my little accent, I tried to put the here. Did you guys catch it? Okay, maybe they catch it. It's okay. When you've been here your whole life, it just rolls off the tongue. So it's all good. So growing up here in St. Louis, I went through many of the same adversities as many of you guys did. Walked some of the same streets, visited some of the same places, and as we find ourselves in this world in the different paths, of what does it lead us to, and how do we get to certain aspects and regions, right? So I am, like I said, born and raised. I've been an Israelite for about 8 years. Hey, I'm giving myself 8 years. I'm gonna round up. 7.5, 8. You didn't catch it. It's okay. So no, about 8 years. And you know what? I'm happy, and because it's taught me so much, not only about myself, but about a culture that I felt was lost to us, that we have no idea. We always ask the question of who are we, what do we come from, and what it is that we do, right? Is the culture we have today our true culture, or is it a culture that we adopted? So all these things kind of plague the mind. And that's why I'm so excited for this seminar, because we're going to begin to peel back those layers to really get into, again, just who are we? And how do we get to this point today? All right, so I kind of want to jump into some agenda items just to kind of get you guys prepared for what you're going to experience today. So we have our welcome. I'm doing good. Awesome. I'll give myself an A. Yeah. We have our keynote speaker, Dr. Jeffrey Blair, Esquire. We're also going to get a very personal story from one of our Israelite members, Mr. Shelby Brown, as he kind of gives you more into his story about where he came from and who he is and how he is today. I'm very excited for that part. As well as we have a group activity, because you guys think you're going to sit there all day, right? Of course we're going to have some fun today. As well as you will be able to hear from our amazing youth as they dive into how they got to be where they are and how this culture has helped propel them to the place that they are today. And then we're going to close. Sad face. But it's going to be all good. We're going to have a whole lot of fun. So, before we get into the thick of things, I want to tell you about our keynote speaker. Because I know our keynote speaker. You guys don't know our keynote speaker. And I have to tell you about him so you guys can be prepared and really experience what it is what makes our keynote speaker so great, right? So, Dr. Jeffrey Blair is a distinguished elder at the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries with a remarkable 36-year marriage to his beautiful wife, Pamela. They are proud parents of 4 high-achieving children. Dr. Blair's academic credentials are impressive, holding a bachelor's degree in computer science and a Juris Doctorate from Rutgers University Law School. He furthered his expertise by earning a doctorate in Israelite Studies in 2015 from Toronto, Canada. Dr. Blair currently leads the USA Council of Israelite Branch Leaders, organizing and managing branches across the United States. His professional career spans over 25 years in private practice and consulting for government agencies and Fortune 500 companies. He is currently associated with Washington University in St. Louis and is the co-owner and founder of the I See Me African American Children's Bookstore, an innovative St. Louis treasure aimed at bridging the gap in children's literacy and ensuring representation in literature. Jeffrey Blair's true passion lies in empowering young people to avoid societal pitfalls and realize their full potential. He serves on the board of numerous nonprofits dedicated to youth development and firmly believes in the motto, by investing and strengthening our youth, we ensure a bright future for our community and our nation. Dr. Blair is a fervent advocate for reclaiming the culture and practices of Israel as outlined in the Bible. He believes that this reclamation is key to addressing and alleviating the challenges faced by African Americans and the wider community. His vision is to build a society grounded in truth and the wisdom of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, thereby creating a prosperous and cohesive community. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. Jeffrey Blair.
All right. Thank you, Minister Anthony. That was a great introduction. I'd like to meet that guy someday. But hopefully everybody's doing well today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Anthony. Thank you, brethren. Thank you, friends. Thank everyone for taking time out of your busy Saturday. It's a beautiful day out today, and you could be, out at the lake. You could be out with family. You could be sleeping. You could be at the park. You could be doing some chores, just catching up, resting from the week, everyone's busy week, but you chose to be here. You chose to take a little bit of time out of your busy schedule to talk about this very important topic. So I applaud you for doing that, because that's not a small thing. It's very much really. So thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for coming out and joining us here today. Let's see, topic, rebuilding our community, starting with an Israelite spiritual standard. Something like that. I'm gonna mess it up. I think it's something like you guys, it's important. And it's something where you think about, like, wow, that's a bold task to try to take on that. Changing our community, I mean, a few people, like how is that going to happen? Starting with a spiritual foundation. But, I think it's something we all, obviously, if we're here, if we're tuned in, if we're online, it's definitely a topic that you think is important enough that, you need to spend some time at least to start discussing it and to start really thinking about it. And not just going along with the status quo, but, putting your efforts, your talents, your brain power, your thoughts into what can we do to make life better for myself, for my family, but particularly for my community. So, it's a lot that we could really cover. It's a lot that, this conversation, can go on. As we said, it's like, three seminars. So this can really go on for quite a while, but I wanted to really focus it a little bit, maybe get the conversation started. I know we have some other things, got some activity going on. We have some youth are going to be talking as well about their perspective. So I'm going to try to keep it very brief. For those who don't know me, I'm known somehow a reputation of being a little bit verbose. Everybody's smiling. Two smiling. Yeah, shaking their head, a little bit verbose. So when we get to a topic that I care about, I can really just keep going. I'm like, one more thing, because I really want to address it. That's one of the, I'm a very optimistic person,
And I really feel that the problems that we speak about, we really have the capabilities of solving. I really feel that. I wouldn't be wasting my time if I thought it was a hopeless cause. So I really do feel that. And so when I get going, sometimes, I just keep going. But I promised my wife that I would be brief. I promised everyone here that I would be brief within the constraints of my time that was allotted to me. So I will definitely make sure that I am brief, no matter how long it takes. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next slide. I think I'm controlling it, right? Okay. So, like I said, this topic could really, we could just go in so many directions, take it from so many angles and perspectives, and you wouldn't be wrong, right? There's a lot of ways to address this, for us to improve our situation as a people. But the 3 focal points, if you allow me, I'm going to focus on, and hopefully this will be helpful in organizing our conversation. Number 1, rebuilding is necessary. Again, rebuilding our community, right? It's one thing, and so I'll touch on that a little bit, which I don't think that will take a lot of convincing that things could be better. Number 2, the key is learning from our past. The key is learning from our past. Number 3, why Israelite culture is necessary. All right, so those 3 things, in my short time, I'll try to address and touch on it, and we can kind of continue on with further discussions in the rest of the seminar. All right, so first, rebuilding is necessary. First and foremost, when we talk about rebuilding, we brings to mind the fact that there was something built there in the first place. And so we're not talking about necessarily starting from scratch, although sometimes when you are rebuilding, it feels that way. But usually it's something that, I remember, I'm originally from New York, New Jersey area. My family and I moved here back in 2010, so now it's been about 14 years. So 14 years. I think this was in July, so I think this is like anniversary. And I remember driving in certain areas of St. Louis, and some of the areas that definitely are challenged. They have missing spots. They have buildings that are dilapidated. They have a lot of negativity. On Martin Luther King Boulevard, some places. The other side of Delmar, some places, and just like when you're there, it's not just the fact in this current state. To me, this is what was going through my mind when I first came. Even going to East St. Louis and seeing some of the areas there as well. It's not just at its current state. To me, what shocked me was the shell of what was there before. Like you get a sense of not that it was it's just terrible. It's always been that way. It's no, there was something here. There was something here. It wasn't just that. There were businesses here. There were nice homes here. There were you saw these things. There was these things there. What happened? How did it go from what I visualized as being something that was, it seemed like a pretty nice neighborhood, I would say almost affluent neighborhood on some level, to what it is today. And I know that's all complex, but I think the point I'm just getting at is that when we talk about rebuilding, we're talking about, again, not starting from zero necessarily, like there's nothing, but like there was something there. And sometimes that can be a more difficult task, right? I don't know if anybody's ever done any type of real estate or any type of rehabs, buildings, or maybe just your home or anything like that, or even your yard or something like that. And, especially in a house that say, sometimes you're like, oh, okay, I don't have to necessarily, I want to remodel or whatever. I can just, maybe if there's some paneling there, put another panel on top of it, or put another paint a coat, or if there's flooring, you put another level on top of it. I know you do that for roofing sometimes, right? And people in construction business, right? If roof needs to be replaced, sometimes instead of taking it off, they'll just put another layer on top, right? But at a certain point, things get so bad, you're like, you know what? It makes sense to just rip it all off and just start from scratch. Whatever the strategy is, the point is that when we're talking about rebuilding, whenever we're talking about there's something there, they got into a state somehow where it is no longer viable, so they're going to have to do something. And whether it's going back, starting from scratch, or whether it's putting on top, whatever we have to do, we got to do something about it. So a part of this is looking at our current state and asking the question, is rebuilding necessary, or is the status quo okay, or do we have to go back? Or, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of have that discussion, not leaving anything or assuming anything. But so as I said, I don't think this part is going to be too difficult because if you look at some of our current state in a lot of different areas, it becomes self-evident. And there's so many measures that we can look at. There's just a few that I chose. And you guys can get a sense when I Let's talk about education. And this is an area that's near and dear to my heart. As noted in my bio, I'm one of the co-founders of ICU African American Children's Bookstore. We work a lot with the schools, based upon our children experience in school that really fostered that. And so we work a lot with a lot of principals and school districts. And so this is data from Kirkwood School District. And for those in the area understand, Kirkwood School District is one of the best school districts as far as statistics in the country, definitely in the region. They're always vying for like first or second place, as far as in the region. And so this is some of the statistics, and if you guys, I don't know if anybody can read charts very quickly or whatever, but this is pretty much the achievement gap analysis between African American and white students. So I'm gonna just pull up one of the slides, for example. Let's look at 5th grade, which is the one that's just third from the right. And you can see as far as being able to be proficient or advanced at this grade level in this area, over 90% of white students are. But only 44% African Americans. So I want you to understand this. Many times when we talk about this, we usually talk about it in terms of, it's socioeconomics. That's the issue. And it's like, okay, that can be a component for sure. But here's the situation I want you to see just how we're all sitting here in the same classes, with the same teachers, with the same amount of time, with the same books, with the same everything like that. They're being disseminated this information, and when it comes back for whatever it is, testing, assignments, homework, whatever it is, performance at whatever level, unfortunately African American students are not achieving at the same level as whites. Complex, I'm not saying it's simple. I definitely don't want African American students to think that it's their fault per se, or that there's something inherently. I'm just more as a measure, it's like, this needs to be rebuilt. Whatever the answer, we got to figure it out and make it happen. It's not so much that we want to use white people as a yardstick. It's just the fact it's like, well, whatever the cause, as a member of the community, as a parent, I want to make sure I solve this problem. Right? In other words, our children are not reaching their full potential. That's what it is. That's really what I want to get to. Well, this is not a new thing, right? I'm pretty sure you guys have heard this many times, maybe even from the time that you were young and now you're older. And the thing is, okay, well, what are we doing about it? How come we let generation after generation fall victim to this? All right? This needs to be rebuilt. This needs to be addressed. All right? You go to the next one. Let's look at this thing where crime and incarceration. And this statistic actually is coming out of Chicago. That's why Chicago's highlighted. So you can kind of look and see some of the cities and that has the highest crime or highest homicide rates specifically. And man, you see, look, I mean, St. Louis is winning. I hate to use that word, but it's definitely out of proportion. And that's here. Right, I'm kind of trying to focus locally because this is the audience. So I want to make sure that we kind of make it personal. So again, I don't think there's any new information. I don't think the idea of like we need to think about rebuilding is something that I have to sell. I just wanted to put it fresh in our minds so that we can see that. Okay, all right. Next, health. And again, even this again could be in any type of health statistic that we could look at. It was even during COVID. It could have be about diabetes. It could be about obesity. It could be about longevity, how long individuals are living. All types of things still. But this is what I found because I'm like we don't hear about HIV at all, and at least I haven't, not recently, but I was sort of pulling this up. I was able to see, look at that differences and disparities right there in the Black community. Like, I mean, to me, that's staggering. I didn't know the disparity still was at this level. It's not in the news, I'm not hearing about it, but it's devastating. So I say all that to say, no matter what statistic that we do or we measure, it seems we're always, if it's a bad statistic, we're always at the top. If it's a good statistic, we're always at the bottom. And it's sad. And a lot of that is, especially going back to the education piece, especially because I see the potential that we have. There's nothing worse than to see young people struggling, knowing that they have the potential, but through whatever the factor may be, whether it's home, whether it's belief, whether it's confidence, whether it's support, whether it's, the help from the other resources such as teachers or schools, whatever it may be, to not see them realize and then feel that self-doubt, that guilt, that somehow there's something wrong with them. Like, to have that person struggle, I think that's a crime against humanity. To have an individual not be able to see their full potential and to be put in a position where then they start to self-sabotage or not able to see themselves as they truly are and the God-given gifts that they were given. That's a crime. And it's hard for me to have a peaceful night's sleep thinking that there are hundreds, thousands, millions of our children who are going through this experience. And I think we need to rebuild because we need to fix that. Here's the other thing, too, that a lot of people don't know is, don't kind of maybe connect the dots. These are not individual statistics. They're all related. The level of education is tied to health outcomes. Health outcomes, the level of education is tied to crime. And it's just so many things that are tied together, so it's not isolated. A lot of times we have groups or organizations that may focus on one thing or the other. It's because the problem, as I said, is so large. Just the idea to come here and stand up and start to talk about these things, where's it going to take us? Because there's no easy solution. There's no to leave here and, it's going to be done. We're going to fix it like at one time. That's not going to happen. It's going to take dedication. It's going to take commitment. It's going to take resilience on each of these areas in order for us to even make a dent in us moving forward. So it's a huge lift. Right? So I'm not trying to discourage anybody. I'm just trying to lay out the reality of where things are. But it's okay. We have an answer. That's fine. That's why we're here. That's why we're smiling, right? Because we feel good about this. So just trust us. Trust us. Rebuilding is necessary. Agreed?
Agreed. Yes.
All right. Okay. The key. So that's why here, like I said, it's a very vast problem. It spreads across various areas, and categories. So that's why we study history, we study the Bible, current events, politics, psychology, sociology, in order to understand the how and why of our journey before slavery. We don't start at slavery, right? During slavery until the present day. Our hope is to learn from the past so we can plan for the future and be in a better position for future generations. So when you go to the doctor and you have a pain, first question is going to ask, when did you start having that? And then before you can really make a clear diagnosis, tell me a little bit about your history. What is your lifestyle like? What are you doing? Do you exercise? Do you smoke? Do you drink? Right? How about your mother? Right? How about your father? How about your grandparents? They will go through that because for me to have a clear diagnosis of where you are in order to be able to give you the right treatment, I got to know just not about your current situation, you got to tell me about your past because all that is going to feed to how I treat you to make sure you have a good outcome. So in a similar fashion, if we're going to examine or take on this challenge of trying to say, what can we do to improve our situation? And this works whether we're talking about personal development, family development, and coherence, or even the community. It's the same thing, no matter how level you take that. We have to be able to be willing to take a sober look at ourselves and our past before we can really start embarking upon our future. Sometimes it's not an easy picture. It's not always rosy, but it is necessary. And the hope or the faith comes in that if we do this, the outcome would make it worth it. The pain of going through that process, the pain of possibly pulling away from those things that you cling to, that you have learned to cling to in order to get through this life, in order to invest in a positive future for yourself and your family, if you make those commitments to do that, the pain of being pulled away from your comfort zone, as what's called sometimes, in order to make these steps to move forward, the reward at the end of that will outweigh that. So I'm not a woman, but we had this conversation the past couple of weeks about when a woman goes through pregnancy, worst pain in the world. I can imagine. I had sympathy pains as a father, so, but I know it doesn't compare, so I'm not trying to compare, but it's a lot. And it's but what every mother does say after they give birth, they don't necessarily forget, but it's like, will they do it again? Yeah, I definitely do it again for what the outcome is, that child. I think this is no different. I think we as people are so valuable, have so much to offer to ourselves and to the world and to our God, that if we make the right investments, the outcome that we have will be able to, I think, really just surpass even our wildest imaginations of what we're able to accomplish. And I truly, truly believe that. And that's why I'm here. So we got to learn from our past, though. I think we can just start by saying, hey, I think we should do this, I think we should do that, I think we should do this. It's like, well, slow your roll. Let's take the time. Let's think about this. And let's have all the voices at the table. And let's think about this, how we can do this. And maybe there's something we can learn from the past that can actually help us. All right. Black Wall Street, all black towns, Reconstruction. I'm not sure if you know about this era that we've come through, Reconstruction. Shortly after Emancipation Proclamation, there's a period of time of actually prosperity in our community. Well, not just, a month ago we had Juneteenth, right? So Juneteenth celebrates the end of slavery. And after that time, during enslavement, which is the worst enslavement of any people at any time that's ever taken place on this planet, and the atrocities that were done to us, is unspeakable, but yet we must speak about them. Babies were sold off as produce. Wives were married off, taken away. Brothers and sisters were separated. And so after this, one of the first things that we did was try to find each other, celebrate we're free, try to, what do we do now? How do we build our lives? And to me, it's a fascinating era. I studied this quite a bit, and probably if you continue to study with us, we definitely would go into this in more detail. The point is that after this era was, kind of short-lived, politics that took place in the country. We're going to get another time. The point is, around this era, after this era, there were a number of black towns that were created, all black towns. And a lot of them were definitely going in this direction where we are right now, St. Louis and beyond, this side of the Mississippi. And a part of it is because once Reconstruction sort of fell apart, right, no fault of our own, but because of the politics of the country has taken place, instituted Jim Crow in the black codes. And in some places, you read some of the authors you speak about, as bad as we think about slavery, Jim Crow was worse than that. Because we had the South who lost the war, right? But they won the peace. And out of that, we get the KKK and all the various things that happened. And they tried to come back at us with vengeance. During slavery, we were property. So, of course, they lynch if they have to, but they would try not to because it's property. I'm not trying to, devalue my property or get rid of it. But now there's none of that. We're disposable, right? We're not going to get into that, right? There's a lot that's going there. The point is, we decided we need to get out of here. And we need to find some place where we can govern ourselves. Now we have this quote-unquote freedom. And many, millions came through St. Louis. For the gateway, St. Louis was a big part of that. Matter of fact, you know what they called us who migrated out of the South, coming through St. Louis and going out to the West? You know what they called us? The Exodusters. Because just like the children of Israel, we were looking for a promised land where we could be free. This is in the congressional record. And so when we came through and we actually went and built towns, hundreds of towns, right? Kansas, Oklahoma, particularly Texas, and Black Wall Street was one of them. What we know today is Black Wall Street. And we had several men that came together, brilliant men, right? Innovative men, who came together and started to build these towns. there were banks, there were pharmacies, right? There were schools, insurance companies. There were all these things that were self-sustaining. We weren't dependent on anybody. We weren't interested in wanting to be dependent on anybody. I mean, we absolutely worked with whoever and trading back and forth, but the money circulated within our community hundreds of times. And it was prosperous. We even had people there who had airplanes. We're talking about in the early 1900s, when the plane just came out. This is us, right? So I bring it up to say the potential of what we have, the intelligence that we have, the resilience that we have, the strength that we have, right? The innovation that we have, the creativity that we have, is there. It's there. So I'm not looking at the negative things that happen in the community. It's not that we're not capable. It's none of that. We have proven it. This is just one example. Like I said, there are many times, hundreds of times that we've done exactly the same thing. It's just one example. But as we know, eventually it was destroyed. Just last year, was the year before, we had the 100th anniversary of the destruction of Black Wall Street. We actually went down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a youth contingent to be able to actually go for ourselves to see what's there, what's left of Black Wall Street, and it's sad to see, or compared to its heyday. Similar fashion, as I mentioned earlier, going through Martin Luther King Boulevard and going to St. Louis and seeing, my goodness, this was big thriving community. So much so that the term Black Wall Street is synonymous with progression, and I mean, right? It's just that's the epitome, right? That's the highest heights, and it was there. It was that at one time, but it was destroyed. One of the things that we have to understand is, for any society or any group, in order to be successful, there must first be a spiritual foundation. We may think about, okay, we need engineers, we need architects, we need money, we need bankers and finance people, we need doctors and hospitals, all this infrastructure we need in place, build roads and invest. Absolutely, we need those things. 100% we need those things. But if we don't have a cohesive and clear spiritual foundation, then what we're building on is, you got to be one accord in that sense, right? You think about every society that we can think about. Think about the Egyptians without a spiritual foundation, right? All the things, the pyramids, all the various things, whatever. Think about, go back to when the Americas, right? So think about the Incas or the Mayans and their civilizations. Even here, the Coca Mountains and all those things without the spiritual foundation. Think about Babylon without this, it doesn't make sense, right? You got to have that because everything else flows out of that. Your culture flows out of that. Your calendar flows out of that, right? The things that you think as important as a people, that the reason you get up in the morning, right? It comes out of that, right? Even think about the current condition that we're in, which is another version, another generation pulled apart from the Greek and Roman. Think about the spiritual foundation. We don't think about that so much, right? But think about, who are our superheroes really? Where does Thor come from? That's the spiritual foundation that comes out of Rome. Where do the days of the week come from? Why is Sunday called Sunday? Bigger? Why is Tuesday? Why is Wednesday, which honors the God wrote it? The spiritual foundation is all around us and is so intricate in us, we don't even realize it. It's a spiritual foundation because that's what holds society together. Does that make sense? I just want to make sure. The spiritual foundation. So, we, our forefathers, coming here, these black towns, have all the necessary skill set, strength, and ability in order to be successful in building their towns, their cities, and their communities. But what was the spiritual foundation? It was the same spiritual foundation that they just came out of. They adopted the same spiritual foundation of the slave method they just came out of. One of the questions that you guys will be discussing later is, why did they do that? Think about it this way. Children of Israel, our forefathers, enslaved in Egypt, very similar experience. When they came out, right, Moses had two jobs. One, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Two, bring them to the promised land, or bring them to this mountain so I can give them my law, statutes, and commandments, so that then they can go into the promised land. And of course, when Moses got those instructions, he was like, he thought the most difficult part would be going to Pharaoh. Right? Obviously, it ended up being the easiest part. The hardest part, It's getting the people to comprehend the laws, statutes, and commandments that the God of Israel was trying to give them before they can go and establish their nation. And why did they do that? Because if he didn't do that, they would just recreate the spiritual foundation that came out of Egypt, that they've been practicing for the past 200 years. They would just do that. But he's like, no, I need to distinguish you. For you to be successful, you have to apply this spiritual foundation that I am going to give you because of who you are, your identity. Although we've had many successes throughout this time, we didn't do that then. And many times we can point to, not just that time, as to why it was not sustainable and we weren't able to stand against our enemies. All right, I'm getting the hook, so I'll go through pretty quickly. So, what is one of the things as we look back through history and studying all those various things that we did, that we do, the one thing that we come to, and if you can't understand this, it's okay, continue to study with us and we'll show you exactly why we made these conclusions and understandings. We as black people in America, as the descendants of the men and women who were transported from Western Africa on slave ships, are Israelites. Us here in Detroit, us here in St. Louis. We are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we are the remnant of the lost tribe of Israel. We'll talk about that. And it's important because identity is important to understand. As again, we have to be able to diagnose where we are and who we are. Be able to understand what prescription should we give in order for us to help and rebuild our community. All right. Why is Israelite culture necessary? It's a part of it because of who we are. One of the things, as I said, I'll give you like 2 minutes. All right, is that okay? Yeah. 2 minutes, and I can wrap up really quick. Why is Israelite culture necessary? So, when I spoke about Martin Luther King Boulevard, when I thought about Northside and other areas, when I spoke about East St. Louis, you had a certain picture in your mind. We went through the statistics about education, about health outcomes, about crime and homicide, and you kind of think in your mind, think about that. But for a second, I want us to read this, and I want you to imagine, suppose this was applied to St. Louis. What would St. Louis look like? Right? This is the promise. This is coming out of Egypt. The God of Israel gave us these instructions to say, when you go and create your society, this is what you should do. Not just, we're not talking about religion. This is not just what you do, in church, let's say. This is what you do in your house. This is what you do with your families. This is what you do with your children. This is how you do your fields. Like, it was a full body of love us for a perfect society. Not written by man, not written by, although as brilliant as I think we are, this was given to us by the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. All these instructions. And the reason is because he wanted us to be successful as a nation. And so not only did he give it to us, we also said, if you do these things, this is what this nation is going to look like. This is what your nation is going to look like. All of these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city. Blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shalt thou fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall thy basket and thy store. Blessed shalt thou be when thou come in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Put that in your mind. Now apply this to St. Louis. And can you imagine St. Louis having this outcome? Continues. The Lord shall cause thy enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way, and flee before thee 7 ways. So if the founders of Black Wall Street had established Israelite culture as a spiritual foundation, no matter what would have come against us, what does our God say? He's not anticipating that, we're going to live in Shangri-La and hold hands, everything will be great. He's like, you'll have enemies. People are not going to necessarily like you. But guess what? Because I'm with you, you will not fall. You will not be able to stand against you. 8, the Lord shall command the blessings upon thee in thy storehouses, and all that thou settest thy hand unto. And he shall bless thee in the land which Lord thy God giveth thee. The Lord shall establish thee as a holy people unto himself, as he has sworn. All right? God swears, I swear, this is what I'm going to do. Sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God and walk in his ways. this is when we had actually come out of Egypt. And I'm wrapping up on this last piece. Along the way, also, as we know in our history, and if you continue to study with us, we'll kind of go through it in more detail. Many times we've stumbled and fell. As you know, we had to go into enslavement. This was not only enslavement as a people. It's happened a few times in the scriptures, unfortunately. But he would have us enslaved for a time and come redeem us and bring us out. And then he would promise us, hey, again, just remember what we said at the very beginning, what I told you, what I swore to you by. It's still a chance. Right now, right? You have a choice. If you choose to continue to do this, this is one of the environments that I'm going to want to create for you. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, there shall yet old men and women dwell in the streets of Jerusalem. And imagine replacing St. Louis with Jerusalem. Imagine replacing Martin Luther King Boulevard with Jerusalem. And every man with a staff in his hand for a very old age. And the streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets thereof. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, if it be marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of this people of these days, it should also be marvelous in mine eyes, saith the Lord of hosts. I just want to leave you with that when I said, this is not pie in the sky. This is not be good and you go to heaven. Right? This is not that. Right? This is real commitment for us to be able to build a society today, right now, for us, where we have true freedom to be able to live in peace. Hope you can visualize what this looks like. This is not me putting this out there. This is what our God says. He guarantees and swears for us if we just commit ourselves to following his way, as opposed to the ways that we've become accustomed to. All right? So again, I got the hook. As you can tell, I can keep going on about this because there's a lot more to talk about, but a little piece at a time. I know we have some other parts. Hopefully, you guys, it's resonating with some of the things that I'm speaking about, right? I think it's really, really important. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys and talk with you guys further and some of the other topics that are here. Until then, I say peace. Thank you.
All right, let's give another round of applause for Dr. Jeffrey.
I like to be taught about our God. So I'm here for a short time just to kind of give you, just my story of how I am here today before you to talk about the things that Elder Jeffrey spoke about, to give you, just what it's like to take that transition, to understand, it feels good to be standing before you. I'm like I said, I'm Shelby Brown. I'm from the city of St. Louis, right in the heart of St. Louis, Vashon High School. I've been here all my life, except maybe about 10 years. But that was spread out. But just to bring it home, just to start, it came from a friend of mine who I have been working with for a long time. And we had a lot of conversations and discussions about, different things that were going on that Elder Jeffrey spoke about. How the community was bad, how our people were lost, and, it was at a point in time in my life that I was lost, that I didn't understand what was going on, and I was losing it, losing focus on I was losing kind of like the faith of believing that there was a God for us. Why we don't feel, why we don't see him. And so at that time, and it was around George Floyd, and I had really lost my mind. I would say I was ready to fight by all means and do everything. Anyway, me and my friend had a conversation, and that friend is Minister Anthony, and we had a conversation, and we talked a lot about life, and he began to explain to me things like we were doing wrong, the things that Elder Jeffrey just showed you. Like, hey, why are we not being blessed the way we should? Why are we, we smart, we're physically stronger, but why are we the second place people? And it began to, and I was answering the question. I'm like, well, I'm not even worried about it anymore. I just want to do what I have to do to follow God. I want to, the first thing I'm going to do is the first 2 laws that I know works. And for me, at that time, with me giving up, those first 2 laws was like, have no other God and treat my brother the way I would want to be treated. And those were the only 2 things that I, lived off. And at that time, he asked me a real life-changing question. And I'm glad that he asked me because it was actually life-changing. He said, so who, or better yet, what's the name of your God? And I was like, what's the name of my God? Like, you know who God is. I don't have to tell you. You know what God's name is. Like, God. No, what's his name? You know his name. Jesus, this and that. I'm calling all these different names. He's like, nah, we don't serve the same God. And he's about to walk off. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. What are you saying? Well, he said, instead of me going through and telling you, why don't you open up your Bible and let's take a look at it. And he took me to a page, to a chapter in Exodus 3:15. And he said, now read it. And we got to reading it. And when I read the name, which was the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, and it said, this is my name forever. And it shall be a memorial unto you for all generations. And it really threw me, because I had never seen it before. I've been to all different churches, and I've been sitting down, and I've been praying hard, and this thing was like, this scripture, this verse, this word, it was like a voice. He was standing there looking at me like, you see what it say? I'm like, yeah, his name is, that's 3 names. Like, that don't make sense to me. And he was like, no, I'll read it again. So I read it again. He was like, no, you looking for it to say Shelby Brown. And I was like, no, there's 2 names. But this says 3 names. I'm sorry. This says 3 names. And he begins to, we begin to talk about it. But I'm bringing that up because that was the life-changing moment when I was able to see God's name. Not only that it was written, it was God saying his name. This is my name. So awesome. It was awesome. So that's why I'm here today. And when I began to study, like Elder Jeffrey said, he began to teach me he began to teach me the history, and we began to go through the scriptures, and I began to talk to my elders, and they began to help me, and they began to show me things that I had never seen that was written in the scriptures before. And so from that point, I've just been on fire. I love it. I read as much as I can. The understanding was given, and it's still given, just like you guys just got here today to see the blessings, that we could have if we come together and we recognize who we are. And that's what happened with me. I recognized who I was, and I began to start studying. I began to get happy and ecstatic because now I know who I am, and here I am today. And I love the culture, and I plan on being here and helping out as much as I possibly can to make that Deuteronomy 28, the blessing, be here with us in St. Louis and throughout the world. Thank you once again, and peace.
All right. I'm excited. Sometimes I hear that story, I go, oh man. But no, it was, it's one of those things where it wasn't so much frustrating. It's just like, you can see the wheels spinning little by little. Like maybe it's starting to sink in. Maybe it's kind of getting there, right? He didn't want to tell the real story. We've been knowing each other a long time, and they didn't come up to like year 8. So it did take some time, but no, we're very thankful that Shelby is here and still here, and has taken on that energy and passion and really wants to serve the God of Israel and really wants to help rebuild this nation and really help establish ourselves. And like that's something that we can't really gloss over because it just shows it's a testament to his character, as well as it shows just how real this really is, right? This is not just us talking about it. It's not just us just going out there and just saying all these pretty things. Like, no, this is, as we stand here today, this is extremely real. And we see the benefits in our lives even today. Thank you. So, what's next? All you guys were given an index card, right? And an ink pen, right? Right? Don't look nervous. So we have 3 questions that we presented, right? I kind of glossed over it in the beginning. I gotta go back to it. But of those 3 questions, we kind of want to split into some groups, and we kind of want to discuss those 3 questions and a little bit of our answers, right? And if you're nervous and shy, don't worry about it. You don't have to give your card to anybody to read it. You just kind of can just talk about what your thoughts are.
I got the strength, I got the power, I got the knowledge, and I feel empowered, praising his name each and every day. I feel excited, won't use his name in vain. Cause I got the fire, I'm gonna dance tonight, yeah. Won't let it stand in no way. I got my head still facing the east and west, still praying. Won't let it get in no way. Cause temptation will try and test me out. Cause temptation will be.
Wow. Okay. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. At this stage, whenever we record these things, we're always wondering, can people really feel what we're feeling? Because at this stage, I'm just feeling like, wow, this is going very well. Like we're able to express kind of who we are and what we're about, but at the same time, also give individuals an opportunity to speak as well and give their thoughts, and then be able to try to, hopefully guide it, in the right direction. By this time, we've heard from Shelby giving his personal testimony, which is powerful. So I think at this stage, I'm feeling really good, and even with the feedback from the people who attended, I feel like this is a really good event. There's a really good energy in the room at this point. Did you guys agree?
Oh yeah, I didn't. You know what? It was one of those moments where you almost forget that you're in an event, right? Or you even putting this on.
Yeah.
It was so immersive.
Yeah. You enjoy participating in it, right? Yeah.
It's just like, oh man, this is like, and because of course the time was going so fast.
Yeah.
It was so fast, and I agree with you. It was so special, and it was so unique, the way it was going. And at this particular stage, it really just felt like, wow, like Cloud 9, like we are in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the way that it flowed kind of really took the audience on a journey, being able to kind of guide them through the questions that we presented to them, to kind of spark your brain to get to thinking deeply about things that oftentimes we may just chuck up to it is what it is, but actually being able to like read into it and try and understand our forefathers, to try and better understand how we can work on these things ourselves.
Yeah. And examine what are we doing today that the habits our forefathers gave us. Yes. And it was probably very relevant and probably saved their lives back then. And it was a tool that was used back then. We could debate about that. It's always easy to, in hindsight, to say you should have, could have, would have. But at the time, but now with all the information that we have, especially coming out of the 400, and we're in a different era now, right? We're in the era now where we have the freedom to craft, our future. And so now is the time to ask the question: are the things that we've inherited from our forefathers still relevant and beneficial to us today? So maybe in our history, the Black churches, does have some value, right? All our freedom fighters. We were talking about this earlier. I can't think of one that didn't. Came out of the Black church tradition in some form or fashion. Gathering places for riots and for us to fight for our freedoms and to organize and plan all those various things, and leadership training through those things, developing up the art of our singing and things like that. And so there's some value there, you can kind of say, but now we have no excuse. We have total quote unquote freedom to craft, to chart our next steps. So are we going to continue to bring on those things from the past, or is it time for us to rethink that?
I think it's also interesting because of so much effort and energy and movements that have been beneficial have come out of the Black church. I think it shows how much power as a people that we have, even with a oppressive thought process, and a spiritual foundation that is not our own, but was ingrained into us.
Right.
So I think it could be, you can only imagine how much more special it could be if we use all those talents and gifts towards the right direction into our own culture. That way we feed ourselves while we're also feeding our spirituality, and see what that does for us. And we've seen moments of that with Rise and with the various camps that camp participation that we had recently as well, where you got to see young minds exploring their spirituality and deepening their understanding of self and their peers, and all sorts of things like career and relationships and all those things, but kind of taking that for ourselves, that way we can strengthen ourselves instead of keep going through those same lanes of oppressive states that at the time, they're doing the best they can. But as you said, as you grow and you understand more and more, then you apply.
Yes, yes. And I'm thinking of two verses, right? One in Isaiah where it speaks about come and let us reason together, right? They got a vision. It's like, let's sit down and talk. Let's talk about this. It's like you don't gotta, you don't have to be controversial. We just gotta be like, let's just sit and talk and reason together. When the apostles went out to the various, after Jesus died, and they went out after the day of Pentecost, they would go and they would say, they would reason from Sabbath to Sabbath. They would talk to them and say, listen, this is, and try to reason out of the scriptures. This is what it is. This is what it's about, and some listened, some didn't, but it was just going through those emotions, I think, and hopefully, you would appeal to people who are given the gift to see, the eyes to see. So, it was a good experience. So, you're gonna say, Mr. Anthony? Were you gonna?
No, I was to your point, right? Especially going back then, it was a means to an end for us, right? The goal, more times than not, for us was just freedom.
Yeah,
it's to change the condition of which I'm in today.
Yeah.
Whereas somewhere it feels like it's just flip flop. Whereas we've adopted the end goal of our oppressors, and that's kind of what's got us in that lower state where we can't feel like we can't break free from, and it's like I can't I can't do this. Whereas again, going back then, it's just you understood it, right? Like you said, it was a necessary tool to accompany us on our journey through.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like we know the damage is done to us repeatedly, especially today, and which is why, like you said, we have no excuse to continue to utilize that tool, right? If you need a screwdriver, right, you're not going to pick up a knife,
right?
And so that's what it feels like we do today, all the time.
Especially, maybe you have a knife. Like I know there's times when you couldn't find a screwdriver. And so you get one of the knives and try to utilize it, and maybe you grew up and that's what you saw your father do, and so now you grow up, you got money now, you could get a whole tool set, you get all that, but you're gonna still use the knife because you saw him do it. Just get a regular screwdriver. Right?
Exactly.
Are you still doing what he did? He did it because he couldn't afford it, So. I think it's time for us to really rethink that. And those are some of the questions, right? There were 3 questions that we had the participants expressed their opinions about. One was, why would our forefathers, when they were slaves, why would the slaves adopt the God and religion of the slave master? Why would the slaves adopt the God and religion of the slave master. All right. And so I think, you know, if you guys in the chat, you know, you guys can throw in your own opinions as well. We heard a few. What came to mind of some of what did some of the people say in your group?
To Ezra.
I know in our group we kind of took the approach that it was kind of a mental thing. It was big as far as the fear that was instilled within you to compete, maybe even on the level of looking up to the white man. And I think that hierarchy was established, especially with the with the paint with the paintings that they pictured for us to praise towards, and the ideas and mindsets that they ingrained within us. I think that it was meant to keep the black soul down, and kind of have this open hope of maybe a better day if they were obedient to this white voice, you know? And I think you take that and you instill that very harshly and aggressively into one generation, and then the next generation, and then the next generation.
Just
And
pass
then
it
you
on.
see what happens over time.
Sure.
A snowball effect where
Yeah.
they do it themselves, and you
Don't
don't
know
have
why we're doing it. We just do it because that's what it is. That's
Mm-hmm.
it's passed down to you. So don't forget. Even though we come out of slavery, we're still a product of colonialism.
Yeah.
Right? So just keep that in mind. Even though we come out of slavery, we're still a product of colonialism, right? And then we're not gonna get into it now because that's a whole another piece. But I want you to think about that, and maybe we'll bring it up at another time. But you know, that still is a big product. Let me tell you something else real quick. You know, so interesting to show you how the spirit comes together. So after we finish this, and even this specific question, and then I go home that night, and I was like, you know, we were having our seminar while the Saturday night. The Saturday afternoon Bible study was taking place with Elder Andel and Elder Michael. Did a great job, and the topic was turning a Negro into a Christian, something like that, right? And some of the sentiments that were expressed were very similar to what we were talking about. And I was like, look at how the spirit is present. So shout out to Elder Andel and Elder Michael being in one accord. So that was great. Were you gonna say something, Minister Anthony? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, just to the point of colonialism, just the notion, because I think sometimes we have the notion that the boat came, dropped people off, and they continue to come, and this is the people just happen to be just like that, right? That's not the case, right? We're talking about decades of just being beaten down.
Century.
I mean, yes, of just constantly being beat down. So like to Ezra's point of the mental defect, right? I mean, think about it. In our community today, right? We may go through 20 years of what we may say mental abuse, right? Depending on where you are, you know, and we can identify that and go and, you know, go seek help or whatever we may have to go do. But we talk about 400 years of passed down to generation to generation to generation to generation of that type of abuse. That is like, to that question of the oppressor's religion, because we know it's wrong, right? Even some of the feedback from the people know it's wrong, but something that's like it's just attached, it's just there. Because you feel it and not understanding, right, just of how it all works and why that feeling is even there to begin with. And I just think it's something so vital. This is the one question when we were going through it, the exercise, that really made you pause.
Yeah.
Like it really made everybody pause.
Even us, right? Who put this together? We're like, let's go through the exercise too. And we're like, oh, that's it, you know, writing it down. Like, this is, yeah.
It's like we can't point to one thing why. Like there is no one answer.
Yeah.
And it was just no, it was phenomenal. This question in particular was definitely a head turner.
Mhm.
All right, well, we got more to go. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying it. If you guys are enjoying it, please put sevens in the chat. Hopefully, yes, definitely, and don't forget your donations and like and share. So we got one more piece to the seminar coming up, and which is definitely looking forward to the future. So hopefully, enjoy this part, and we'll see you on the other side. Peace.
Here we go. That's a nice picture. Very, very nice picture. So this is actually from a recent event we just did, and actually Black Wall Street. It was mentioned. Yeah, our Black Wall Street event. As you can see, our Rise Youth leadership there, and this is our Rise Youth leadership from all around the world too. So it was St. Louis, a little bit of New York, New Jersey, a little bit of Canada, a little bit of Atlanta, just a little bit of kind of everybody. Everybody kind of mixed in. So I'm going to bring up a young man to kind of talk more about our Rise leadership group. But first, let me tell you a little bit about this young man. Ezra Blair, for those who don't know, is a musician with a bachelor's degree in economics from Washington University. Growing up, Ezra was an honor roll student and had been able to skip 2 grades during his academic years, advancing him to start college at the age of 16. Ezra, now 23 years old, is one of Rise leaders and teachers and hopes to encourage the youth to better themselves and learn how to work together to solve our community issues as well as protect their spirituality. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Ezra Blair.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Ezra Blair. I came to talk to you as a member of Rise Youth Leadership, started by Shadrach Porter, standing for Restoring Israelite Self-Awareness Through Education. So the biggest things that as a Rise member that we grow and learn about is our foundation. And just like I spoken about earlier, our spiritual foundation. And applying that spiritual foundation to our lives, to our daily lives. As a very young person, I grew up in this culture. And this culture has been a part of my life and my DNA since I was born. And so when growing up and you are in this world that is so crazy and hectic, you are able to really see the differences that applying and having knowledge of self has versus having the chaos of the world embraced and ingrained into your mind. Now, of course, there's always multiple factors of the world that continue to influence us, and it's hard to knock every single influence away from you, but we try our best, and that's why we need each other. That's why we do these events, such as our Yes Camp that we did recently, with other youth as well, so that we empower each other and that we allow each other to have a space so that we can share our ideas, we can share our craft, we can share art, we can share conversations about growth and love and music and all those things that as a people we are so blessed to be able to do and participate in, and these things that come so naturally to us, but for some reason out in the world, the culture of the world and the culture of the society limits us and tells us one thing about us and tells us so many negative things. And so negativity is often the only viewpoint as a black man, especially in growing up in St. Louis, that you see out there. And there's only one way out, and that's a very common conversation. But we teach our youth that their value is in themselves and that their relationship with each other is just as important as their relationship to God. And so I'm here not alone, but I'm also here with other members of Rise as well. And I'm going to bring them up today so that we can have a conversation about what it is like to grow up as a Israelite and not just theorize everything that we're talking about today, but as a young person actually living it. So I'm going to bring up our own Sarah. Our own Ashley. And also our own Naomi. Okay. So we just want to get into the youth perspective on everything because we understand that the youth is the future, correct? All right. So if you have a way of being, that way cannot spread unless you are able to transfer it into the next generation, and for them to take that same thing, grow it even larger than you can see, and then do the same thing over and over, and that's how you build. So our goal is to be in constant build mode. Okay, so I just want to go through, and I'm also a panelist as well. I'm just going to facilitate to be able to ask you guys questions about what it is like to apply this culture. Okay. So, question 1 is, what are some differences that you noticed growing up as an Israelite during your years of education? And anybody can just take it and just be honest, So open space.
One thing I noticed was a more concrete sense of self. If you guys didn't know, Elder Jeffrey is my dad, right? So growing up, we received the same sort of education that you guys got a crash course today on about our history of who we are before slavery, during slavery, and after. And that very much influenced my kind of take on life because I knew that I was more than the state that we are in the United States now. I'm more than myself. I have this whole lineage of kings and queens and Israelites that kind of help me transform my identity into a positive, uplifting, and confident one. I think a lot of my peers, we don't know who we are, right? Especially history in America is very hidden about Black people's accomplishments. And so being able to have that sort of insight, I was able to then tell my friends, hey, excelling in school is not a right thing. They make you think we can't, but you can. And here's why, because we have all of these people that you are a part of and I'm a part of that contribute to our intelligence. So that was a very big part of the background that I came into school with, because we were homeschooled for the first 4 years of our schooling, 5 years. And so it was just a straight conversation about who we are as a people and why education's important and why we aren't what America says we are. We're way more than that. So, yeah.
So I would just like to say that I was born into Christianity, so I did get to see the differences within the culture, because as I was a Christian, I would say when I was younger, as a little child, I wasn't taught any better per se. I wasn't really taught about my background, my knowledge of Israelite culture, so I was just basically doing anything because as a Christian, there's nothing really to guide you basically. And so when my dad became an Israelite, I got to see that I can achieve other things that I didn't know I could do, because with academics, of course I was smart, but I didn't know how to apply it to my schooling basically. And being an Israelite changed the way I thought basically.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does change the way you think. A lot of what Sarah and Bob actually said I resonate a lot with, because it's not just especially as a little kid, it's okay, you're doing well, because the main thing is school. It's school, and make sure to get some exercise in there and eat right, but it's mainly just school and education and learning how to read and then building on that and going through the steps in the education system. And so it wasn't just, okay, I want to get that A or do well in this project or be a great scholar for my parents or for me. It was for the success of my people, for the success of the nation. Until on one end there was a lot of pressure in that. Once you realize that you are a much bigger part of the world and of the history of the world, but there's also a sense of pride and purpose that a lot of my peers didn't get to have. I've had peers that have come to me, especially in college, to say that they felt purposeless and they didn't know what direction they were going, and I've always felt that because I'm an Israelite and I grew up with that foundation, that I did have that sense of purpose, that I knew where I was going, and that I knew what I wanted to do. And that didn't always make it that much easier to decide, hey, this is exactly what career I want to go into, but it gave me that foundation and sense of self that made those things easier. Yeah.
And I'm also going to add to that and say that growing up through the education system, I don't think that it's an easy task as an Israelite, because you are constantly faced with the majority voice being in the direction of our oppression. And you have this voice that you have to listen to within yourself, and of course across your peers that you reach out to connect with, in order to maintain positive thinking and to understand that you can achieve and that there's nothing stopping you, and that not only can you achieve, but you can excel. And just through that application, I find myself here today, and I'm very glad that I was able to apply this culture, because I don't think that I would have any of the accomplishments or achievements that I have today without that knowledge of self.
I think I definitely think that I resonate a lot with that. Was that, like I said, the sense of self. I think that the difference is when it comes to a lot of people in America, in St. Louis, because I went to school in Kirkwood. The foundation of Black people's identity, if it's in America and the culture brought with it, it was not made to uplift our people. It was very much made to diminish us and make us less than. So until kind of change that thinking that, hey, we're not the bottom, we're the top, and start building your foundation from that, then it's not going to be a very positive result. So I feel like I lost my train of thought. So I definitely resonate with that sort of identity. We have to figure out our own ways to find that for ourselves and what that means for us, and how do we instill that in our life.
Just really quickly to add on to that, I think it's not just the religion and culture, but it's the history that we learned. And I remember graduating college and thinking, I know because of my history and my descendants and what my parents instilled in me, that I could do literally anything I wanted to do. And if I put my mind to it, if I stay on this path, I can achieve it. And that came with its own issue of, okay, now I just got to pick something to do. And there was a lot of anxiety with it, because what could have picked the wrong thing. And so there was that, but I think there was that sense of, I know where it came from. I know that we were those kings and queens, those figures in the Bible, those figures that literally talked and with God and had that purpose, that I was able to really do anything in the world. And so there's also that sense.
So we're going to move on to question number 2, which is, how does the application of the culture impact your life?
It's a lot of confusion for my friends, because we do have our own culture, our own calendar, our own holidays. We don't celebrate Christmas, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, any of the American holidays. We never did. So I think when people come to America, if they're foreigners, they kind of assimilate. So I don't think a lot of people have met people that don't do any American holidays at all. So having to explain, have a great holiday, that's yours, it's not necessarily mine, it was very jarring. They're definitely used to it now, but year after year we kept having to explain, oh, actually I don't celebrate that. Oh, thanks for that, but I don't actually celebrate that. So it was very very jarring the first couple of years. But after a while they get used to it. I know we do Passover, and during that time we can't have like leavened bread, and my friends, they remind me when things are in the way. It's like, oh, don't forget, look at that may have leaven or yeast or whatever. So they I think it's just like getting used to in that resort, and it helps me become more confident in my culture because I felt more outspoken and confident the more and more I talked about it with people.
I would say a very similar thing. With applying it to my actual life, because I feel like when you're a kid, your life is what your parents say it is, and so you are kind of just going through the motion. You don't always understand, but you know this is what life is. You don't know anything different. But when I went to high school and college, and even now, I'm constantly building my own relationship with my identity and with my religion and with my own history. And so there's that piece of it that's really, really beneficial because I feel like it's mine. And because of that, I feel like I can kind of almost like, if it was like a weapon, we would like wield it to anything that that I put my mind to. And so there's that, but then there's also the, I think like Sarah said, there is a difference between the way that we grew up and the way that other people did. So there is also the part where you feel very alone sometimes, and so it is helpful to think about a future in which we hopefully won't have to do that, where we're surrounded by a community of people that have the same background and religion and God as you. But for now, I think it's helpful to do things like what we did in the image we previously showed, where we had a yes camp and we were able to come with our rights members and be in that community. So I look forward to things like that. Mm-hmm.
So I do want to say that I do want to say that I do relate to Sarah a little bit because growing up, like I'm not really a people person, I should say, and so like it was really awkward for me to discuss like what I do in my personal life, and so like whenever I would bring up, oh, I don't eat pork, or I have to do Sabbath this day, is really awkward for me, at least in the beginning. And I do relate to Sarah in the sense that the more I talk about it, the easier it does get. Because it was really hard for me, especially with like social anxiety and stuff. And it's really hard for me to tell people things like that. And yeah, I just wanted to say that. I can relate in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was just going to mention something before you moved on. I think and a big aspect of the culture is that everyone is truly treated like family. I used to tell, because I didn't understand the idea that people could be family without being blood related. So I thought every Israelite last name was Blair, because that's my husband. Or I would tell people I had 100 cousins and dozens of uncles and aunts, because again, I didn't understand as a kid. But I think when you grow up in a nation that is devoted to your excellence and your confidence and your positive identity, it makes you feel unstoppable. Like there is no ceiling. You create the ceiling. It's very self-imposed, but there's no ceiling. You're limitless in your ability. When you have people behind you that believe in you to the upper extent, and when you have a God that wants to give you these blessings, there doesn't feel like there's a limit. And so when we talk about as young people, I'm 24, about to be 25, in choosing a life for myself, I don't cross anything out. There's nothing in my life that I feel like I can't accomplish without the backing and support of my nation and my family, all 100 cousins of them. So, yeah.
Yes, and just everything that Sarah has said, I ditto. That limitless feeling is the feeling that propels us. And it's the feeling that we want to spread across our youth and as well as our nation, because our nation is composed of all ages. And so we want to make sure that everyone is fed spiritually. And when you feed your spirit, you're able to feed everything else. Everything else follows suit. Your physical, your mental, and your emotional state all follow afterwards. We're going to get to this last question just so we can wrap up. I know we're at time. But what makes you excited for the future?
I do want to say that what makes me excited is like how I can use my skills to further benefit the nation. So I just wanted to say that I'm really grateful for like the leadership of Rise, because I didn't really have those skills at first, and I'm glad that I have them now, so that I can, lead people to like a right thing. I do want to say that during the Yes Camp, the Black Wall Street event, if you told me like 5 years ago, oh, you're gonna be leading people to this booth, telling them about Israelite culture, I would be scared out of my mind. Like, I would be like, I'm not doing all that. But through these exercises and programs through the Israelite Nation, I was able to achieve that, and I was able to get like a lot of signatures that day. So I'm really grateful for that, and like them building my communications. So I'm just really excited that in the future I will be able to apply that to anything that requires leadership.
Last couple points.
Yeah, I'm excited for events like this where we're able to just talk with people about like our identity and culture. I think it's exciting to give sort of like an environment where we can share our story, hopefully hear your guys' story in the future, to be able to find ways where we can excel as a people. The feeling I just talked about where it feels like there's nothing I can't do, that comes from my spirituality, that comes from my relationship with God, and knowing that I always have that to fall back on in times of trouble. So being able to share that and share that feeling with someone in the future, I think that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to us as youth. When you saw the picture, there's a lot of us. So as we grow up and learn more about ourselves and our place in the world, I'm excited to see what we can achieve. I know we have a lot of ideas. So just being able to create a future in which we excel and are confident in ourselves and believe in ourselves, and so we all can have a limitless potential.
And to add to that point, another thing that we also did during our Yes Camp is we had a seminar dedicated towards nation building. So basically, we were just talking about the Black community here in St. Louis and all the streets and the impoverishment, but our goal was to what could our block and our community look like if everybody maintained an empowered mindset through Israelite culture. And just to see all the kids of various ages, ideas come together to make this beautiful community. And it's like if all our minds are dedicated to that task, then what can't we accomplish? So that is like the thought process that that we want everybody to be a part of, and we hope that you guys in the audience can help us with. So thank you guys.
As we come to a close, unfortunately, this has been a very, very beautiful and successful seminar, and I hope you guys were really able to capture and learn more a little bit about Israelite history and culture as we kind of dive more into it. But I know I see sad faces. Don't worry. We do have more coming up. All right. So, did I tell you guys we have more coming up? August 24th at 2:30 p.m.
It still has the
August 24th at 2:30 p.m. We have another seminar, as well as September 21st at 2 p.m. So please remember, really jot down these dates, share it with your friends and family, because I know I got a lot out of this seminar. So I can only imagine what your friends and family will get out of this seminar. So if you're in the St. Louis region, come on down, tune in. We'll be happy to discuss more, as well as maybe we'll do 10 more seminars. Oh, okay. Maybe just two. So keep that in mind, as well as if you do want to learn more about Israelite history and culture, we do have literature. And we have our very own publishing called Fifth Rib Publishing. We want to highlight that. We have to highlight that. If we talk about building up our communities and building up our nation, one aspect of that is we have to control the media that we have available to ourselves. So we do have some examples. If you guys need to, I'm sorry, we don't have it in stock with us today. But if you guys are interested in picking up a few of these books, you can always scan the QR code, where it can take you to our website where you are able to publish these books online. So, Fifth Real Publishing, I love it, guys. I love it, love it, love it, love it. And Fifth Real can attest to this because I purchased like 16 books. This is no lie. This is no lie. At least 16. So, stay connected with us. And how you gonna stay connected? Sad faces. No, I'm joking. Of course you can stay connected with us. It's a social media age. So we do have social media handles that you guys can stay connected to at IsraeliteNation.com, RiseYouthUSA.org, Instagram at Israelite Nation, and Instagram at Rise Youth USA. So please, when you log on to the social media sites, like, follow, share, and make sure you leave a comment, right? Because we really want to stay engaged. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for this awesome day, for your cooperation, for all the fun and excitement we had, and for our keynote speakers, for our Rise Youth Leadership panel. Really want to thank you guys for making today be extremely successful. So again, thank you guys very much.
Wow, that was good. That was good. I'm reflecting back on that, and I really enjoyed this. It was such, I don't know if people online, if you guys, hopefully it looks as good as it felt when we were there. It was really good. The visitors enjoyed it. I think, what was some feedback, Minister Anthony, you got from people about?
Oh, I know one particular individual was, she was so ecstatic. At first she said she was a little apprehensive. She wasn't going to come, but she's so glad she did. And she's looking forward to more seminars as well as just more activity. So it really gets you pumped up. Let us know, like, hey, like the community is really responding.
Yeah. It's good to be out in the community, right? It's really very well received. So I was pleasantly surprised. So you guys there in the chat, please, if you guys enjoyed what you saw, if you want us to see more of these, which we got some more coming up anyway, regardless. If you're in St. Louis or want to come to St. Louis to come and support and help us out, come on, let's do it together, because it was really something. What about for the Rise part of it, Ezra? Any reflections on that? Any thoughts about that?
The Rise part was really good. Shout out to the St. Louis Rise members for coming out and telling their stories and being honest about their experiences growing up with this Israelite culture and how it has been beneficial for them. And I know I'm a product of that as well. In St. Louis, we had the honor to host other Rise members earlier during our Black Wall Street event. So it's just nice to feel STL and the Rise youth group come together and do more things. So hopefully in the next seminars that we continue to represent the youth and represent this Israelite culture.
Absolutely. Okay, good. So good stuff, guys. We're going to wrap it up. I hope you guys liked. I know today was a little different, but we wanted to just share, kind of what's happening here in St. Louis. Hopefully it can, inspire, our brethren and all you guys who are on this time. So, peace, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. Please continue with the chats. Continue to, send us, whatever your thoughts are, your feelings about the event, or even any suggestions, that you may have for us to continue to do this as we're moving forward. All right, so good stuff. Again, shout out to Shelby. I know he wanted to be here, but he couldn't, but definitely next time. So the date of the next one is happening. It's a 3-part series. So we did July, we have one in August, I think it's August 24th. And then we also have one in September.
September 21st.
September 21st. Okay, so if you're in St. Louis or you have people or friends in St. Louis, let them know, spread the word so they can come and join us. All right. Okay. So any final words, Minister Anthony?
Yes, let's go. Let's keep it going. I'm so excited for the next seminar. I can't wait.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Enjoy your Friday night. Thank you for being with us. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.